Hello everyone. We all know that there is a huge range of organisms which inhabit this earth. And all of these organisms, they are present on this earth only till a specific time period, which we call it as their lifespan. Now, so the living organisms, in order to maintain their number in future and in order for the survival of their species, they have to undergo a process by which they can increase their number. And that process is known as reproduction. So in this chapter, we are going to talk about reproduction, its various types and all the other details in a descriptive manner. So first, let's come to the definition of what reproduction exactly is. Reproduction is a biological process. Why biological? Because it is taking place in living organisms only, which an organism gives rise to young ones. So in reproduction, a living organisms, we can see over here, this is a picture of a duck. A duck is going to reproduce to produce her offsprings, which are known as ducklings. So this is known as reproduction. These organisms produced are similar to the parent. Not an exact copy in every case, but yes, they are similar to the parent as well as to each other. That is, the siblings, they are similar to each other in some or the other respective manner. So this is the definition of reproduction. Now, the offsprings which are formed, they are going to grow, they are going to mature. That means they are going to get reproductively mature. And then in turn, they are also going to produce new offsprings. So as a result, there would be a cycle, a continuous cycle of birth, then growth and then death. Something which we are very easily able to see in this picture as well. There is this organism, a baby, it grows in size, it becomes reproductively mature, ages and then dies off. So there is a continuous cycle which takes place. Reproduction as a result can be told that it enables the continuity of a particular species generation after generation. So it is only by the process of reproduction that an organism or a species can survive in future. Then, reproduction being a fundamental feature of living organisms is not a defining feature. Now, what is a defining feature? Defining feature are those features of living organisms which are seen in all the living organisms. So here we are talking that reproduction, though it is a fundamental feature, that means it is seen only in living organisms. Non-living objects do not reproduce. So reproduction is a fundamental feature, but it is not a defining feature of living organisms, because for a feature to be defining, it has to be seen in all the living organisms. And we know that all living organisms, they do not reproduce. Majority do, but all living organisms, they do not reproduce. For example, there are mules, for example, there are worker honeybees, and also some infertile human couples. They are not able to reproduce. So thus, we say that reproduction is a fundamental feature for sure, but it is not a defining feature of living organisms. Then, the period of birth to the natural death of an organism, that is the whole period of its life, is known as the lifespan of the particular organism. So right from the time the organism is born and till the time the organism dies, that whole period of time will be considered its lifespan. And we are now going to see that lifespan is very varied, it is very different in different type of individuals. For example, an elephant lives for 60 to 70 years. Then a butterfly lives for approximately 1 to 2 weeks. So the lifespan of a butterfly is 1 to 2 weeks. Then that of a cow is approximately 20 to 25 years. Similarly, that of a rose plant is 5 to 7 years. That of a banyan tree is 200 to 300 years. The lifespan of crocodile is 60 years approximately. The dog is 10 to 12 years. Rice plant is 3 to 4 months. A banana tree is 25 years approximately. A parrot lives for 140 years. A crow for 15 years. A fruit fly for 2 weeks. A tortoise for 100 to 150 years, and a horse approximately for 60 years. So this is the approximate lifespan of some of the organisms. You might have noticed one thing, that the lifespan of an organism does not depend upon its size. This does not mean that a bigger sized organism is going to live longer. For example, we are going to see that the elephant is approximately living for 60 to 70 years. So the lifespan is 60 to 70 years. But a very small sized organism, that is a tortoise, lives for 100 to 150 years. That is much more as compared to an elephant. So the size of an organism is no relation with the lifespan. And similarly, the second point is that similar sized organisms also do not live for exactly the same lifespan. We can see this example. The parrot lives for 140 years and the similar sized crow on the other hand lives for only 15 years. So this is that we have to understand that there is no relation in comparison to the size of a living organism. So these are some approximate lifespans of these organisms. Now let's talk about reproduction in much more detail. We know that there is a large diversity of organisms present on our earth. So each of the organism, though they undergo reproduction, but they have some or the other way, they have evolved their own mechanism to multiply and to produce offsprings. So we know that all the organisms, they are going to reproduce, but the way in which they reproduce, the time they take in reproduction, the offsprings that they produce, that varies from organism to organism, species to species. Then, what depends the organism's habitat, its internal physiology, and several other factors are the ones which collectively are responsible for the type of reproduction a particular organism undergoes. And depending upon this, depending upon the participation of the number of parents, that is one parent or generally two parents, the reproduction is divided into two types. So we are going to see whether there is participation of one organism or generally two. The process of reproduction is of two major types. What are the two major types? When offspring is produced by a single parent, that is with or without the involvement of gamete formation, that is the gamete formation might or might not take place and the parent is only one. That kind of a reproduction is known as asexual reproduction. So this is one type of reproduction. And the other, when two parents generally, that is the opposite sex, male and female, they participate in the process of reproduction, and along with that they involve the fusion of male and female gametes. These special cells, gametes, are involved. That type of reproduction is known as sexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction forms the second type of reproduction that we are going to study in detail. So we will take up the reproduction types in the next following videos. To buy these books, you can go to www.cengage.co.in, or you can also find the links in the video description given below. Thank you.